this is what I'm thinking, and I told her, and we're live, but it's going to take a second to hook up.
Sure.
Is it hooking up? Yeah. So that was what I was looking at, and then of course maybe you guys, doing something together or separate or whatever in regard to an offering, meaning like maybe a what do you call it? Because we're going to try to have, not try. I think this will be accepted too, but where we have maybe half the time, 2 or 3 things going on at once.
Sure. Well, I'll tell you, by that time, we'll have been living the shuttle bus life for a couple months. And we might have a few things to share about that.
Have you already completed it?
Nearly. I mean, it's right there. We're going to take it. We're going to take it out on a camping trip within the week, and but yeah, it's. I mean, the electrical, the water. We are moving into it and moving around.
Vera and Auguste just took off with the Soulogy bus, and they cleaned it all out and put in a floor, and it's just bare bones, but yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, so you're going to have some perspective on that. Let me say hi to Monique. Hello, Monique. And we are just getting back to
Delia and Allison.
Yeah. But Monique in particular, because we were going to have a conversation to kind of start this stuff off. And our first conversation is going to be with Monique because she's got So anyway, I just want to let her know that it'd probably be our night. And we're going to reach out. Thank you, Patricia. That's very cool.
So we got our joy in that person's life found you through Franco, and people find Franco through you. So as we did. So it's awesome.
You found us through Franco?
No. Found Franco through you.
Oh, okay. Oh, you found Franco through us. Yeah. Yeah. He's there's our friend Esau and Missau. They're up and they're doing it. Yeah. Oh, Franco. Right. Yeah, you got Franco in that one. Let me see. Wow, that's very cool. Very cool.
You can just picture him saying in this first sentence, many people have come to the point where they're asking, what is going on?
That's Franco.
Let's go him.
What is going on?
He explains it beautifully. So beautiful.
So, it's been a really, really, today's March the 1st. Happy birthday, Kelsey Renee Medina, my first child. She is 32. Wow.
Wow.
And so, it's been like, I don't know, since 12/12. Just, and I really, I love what you said in that little comment on the post. Our conversations are always very, very open and cool and fulfilling and activating. And, we have, for those of you who don't know, Scott Ware with Radiance Magazine and other endeavors. And we've connected a year plus. And he's been very supportive of Soulogy. He's also been very supportive of Morgan Lee's zeropointing.com. And he's really been very supportive of the community in general with what he does. And for those of you who don't know, he is the publisher of a hard copy Radiance Magazine. There's also a virtual aspect to it, but in terms of the hard copy, we put some out here in Fort Smith at a couple little places. I think there was someone in Florida that was either thinking about doing it, but for the most part, 600 plus locations on the West Coast that he and his very small crew, if any, deliver to key places. And it's just a fantastic. I've got 3 copies of them right here, and just fantastic content. Very much an equal energy exchange type of scenario. And it's just a great offering. And we really look to collaborate with Scott, Maria, his partner, and his team, and our contemporaries, our mutual contemporaries, and our soon-to-be mutual contemporaries, whoever they may be, and just build and integrate the virtual with the physical world and continue to expand. So we were just talking about Soulogy Fest, and he's going to be playing a role in that. So we're excited about that. Anyway, that's who Scott is. It's good to have you back. And what the hell's going on, as Franco said?
Hey, exactly. What is going on? it's funny you mentioned about the crew, and then as far as delivering, I've never delivered with one of my editors, but I have delivered with various people like my friend and psychic healer, Jerry Yusko. And just yesterday, I had lunch with Robert Quicksilver, who runs the LA Expo that just happened a weekend or two ago. And we're sitting there, and he goes, "Well, I could go with you. How late do you go?" I said, "Well, every 2 months when this magazine comes out, we do the online interviews as well of the people who are in it, but we deliver the copies. We go at night, 6 or 7 nights every 2 months to deliver to the yoga studios, health food stores, metaphysical stores, Pilates, anyone who's open to this vibration. And so if you live in Southern California, you know of such a place that it's not there, please let me know. Send me an email to radiancemageditor@gmail. We'll get it in there." And he'll go. So we negotiated on the times. I like to go after traffic's over. But the thing is, when you're delivering to Santa Monica, Encinitas, Carlsbad, the Dana Point, those cities in particular are lit up at night. And it's like having a really fun permission slip to drive around Southern California and, make these deliveries. And Hay House was kind enough to give me boxes and boxes of surplus books to also donate to these places. So I'll leave a couple of metaphysical books as well with the magazine, which is fun.
That's cool that you made that connection and they're doing that. That's very
It
cool.
is. So you go into Hay House's offices in Carlsbad, and they have the magazine there on their coffee table.
Is that where they're based out of?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Got you.
And it's cool because they have these surplus of books, which, by the way, whenever they receive letters from people in prison, they gladly send them books as much as they can handle. So that's another little program they have that they do.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yes,
that's a very powerful thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just watched as I was trying to integrate when we came back from the massive winter storm that struck so much of the country, in particular South Texas, where we were, which never sees that kind of weather. 4 days, the entire city had no water.
Incredible.
But I was chilling out. Morgan went to go visit a friend the day after we got back, and I just laid on the couch and I watched Cool Hand Luke.
All these cold references, chilling out. And cool hand.
Right. But it takes place in a Louisiana prison farm, and it's just, I think people, and I've had, I've been open about it. Nothing major, not prison, but I've had, up to 34 days of incarceration in my past. And it's amazing because actually that stint, that 34 days in Harris County Jail, which was, I was in a high risk 25-man cell, but there was so much. It was at the beginning of my awakening, and there was so much light. There was such diversity and such, I don't know how to say it, almost like a community.
Sure.
Respect. There was just so many things. And I had a lot of experiences, what I would say in the non-physical and physical kind of merging. There was just a tremendous amount. But one of the things that I really walked away from it was the extreme of, let's just say, the Matrix, the extreme of the way people are treated. And, because the soul is a soul. And, it really opened my eyes. So for me to hear something like that, Hay House is sending books to prisoners for free at their request, that's you have no idea the value that someone like that has. And I can also tell you there are many, many, many people in that situation that shouldn't be. Remember, we are 5% of the world's population and 25% of its prisoners. That math doesn't work.
I know.
So this will be one of the things that gets corrected. Yeah, I'm shaking it, boss. I'm shaking it.
Yeah, correctional facilities. We really need to look at the definition of what it means to be correctional. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, it's just you talk about presence, like presence. I mean, and my experience is limited, but I mean, to be in a 25-man cell, it's not a big space. there's nothing you can do, not shower, not go to the restroom without everybody watching you.
Sure.
And so there's this level of, respect and, what do you call it? Just etiquette.
Sure.
And it's pretty interesting because it is well, I don't want to say enforced, but I guess it is enforced,
Sure.
even by those who don't like each other. Right.
Sure.
Everybody respects it. Right. So I learned a lot there, and I really feel like, that's a great thing what they're doing.
I imagine,
Huh?
I imagine there's a comfort in having those kinds of norms in that situation, because it's difficult otherwise to be in that situation without some kinds of rules or something for respect. But and to have training in how to stand in your power and hold space for yourself is crucial, I would think.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's interesting too because and it's just like a microcosm of life too, right? Those particular characteristics I was talking about might be somewhat unique to that situation, but it's also like a situation like we were experiencing in South Texas, where you had water shortage, no water, period, no wastewater, and then of course bottled water, milk, eggs, bread, all this stuff was gone. And so you kind of have the same type of, you got some extreme, like energetically, some extreme circumstances. And it was such a cool thing. We talked about it on the last show a little bit, but how people were not projecting. Like we're talking long lines. We're talking, hell, there was one grocery store down there that I grew up with called HEB.
I've heard of that store lately.
You heard the power went out and they told everyone, just go ahead and take your groceries.
Yeah.
And in that article, it might have been the one you read too, they were coming back like a week later and paying and donating and paying stuff back to the store, paying it forward. So yeah, paying it forward's a big deal, isn't it?
It is. And it's a beautiful thing. It's also a gift you give yourself. Anytime you give, you do it for love with no attachments, no hooks or anything, just for the sake of it. It's beautiful. You're being paid in a sense in that moment.
Yeah.
Paying it forward is it's an interesting phrase, and I remember that movie too, and it was a beautiful movie. But just, I mean, when you're in your authenticity, when you're in your heart, you're exuding that love and paying, if you will, in all directions at all times.
There's something to be said for, well, you're a great example. Maybe everyone doesn't know, but there was a pre-existing magazine, and then you came across it.
Yeah.
And, not take anything away from you, but I was in business for many years before this all happened to me. But so I can appreciate what it takes. And so you were by no means a multimillionaire or wealthy. You were just a guy like me, and you went in and took it and ran with it. And that's what it's based on. It's based on you providing a service to the community, but your energy's all over it. Your culture's all over it. That you and your contemporaries, your colleagues, right?
Yes, but it was what came just before that. Of course, was one of the times in my life where a very loud voice in my head was saying, "Make a change from what I was doing in my life at that point." And I wanted it. Just sort of came to me one day to say, you want to make a living doing something spiritual.
Yeah.
I want to combine those things. And I said, oh, okay, well, what can I do? And I can write. I've written plays that were produced in Santa Monica and the San Fernando Valley. And
really?
Oh yeah, I'll tell you about them sometime. And one of them had aliens in it, actually.
Did it really?
Yeah.
I want to talk about that too. Keep going.
Okay. Okay. So so then I said, well, I'll start a spiritual magazine. And then within like an hour, something came to me, said, well, search, see what else is out there. And I came across Radiance, which was in South Orange County. I lived in North Orange County, never came across it. It was only at 60 or 70 locations.
Wow.
But it had been around for about 6 years. And Danielle Hewitt had started it through her Temple of Light in Irvine, which was a well-respected, well-loved spiritual center, metaphysical center. With a lot of great events, a lot of great speakers. And then its time came to close, and she closed the magazine, and I reopened it, expanded it to all of Southern California. We're all the way down to San Diego, even into Tijuana, where I go to a dentist. They have them there too. And then up to Ojai, which is a great community for spirituality.
So where the powers of love live, right? You know them?
I know them very well. I didn't know where they lived. I didn't know they lived that far. Okay.
Yeah. Isn't that's in Ventura County, right?
It is. It is.
Yeah, that's where we met him. We met him up there. We were staying in Ventura County, Ventura Beach.
I got the interview him once on Awakening Code Radio when I substituted there. It was a great interview. It was. In fact, they just shared it on their timeline. Jason Michael Powers and Heather.
I saw that, and I keep seeing Awakening Code Radio. Morgan and I were on it, I don't know, a month before or whatever. But so for those of you who don't know, because these cells are pulling tighter and tighter and tighter. So Scott's referring to Michelle Anderson and Eric Rankin, and they've been doing a show there for years. Is it in Irvine or it's in
Laguna? So Laguna. Yeah. Because they just don't get reception. The only station that gets reception, I believe, in that city is that one because it's there. Yeah. And it's a progressive station that has shows like that. And it's also Inner Journeys with Greg. Oh my God, I'm blanking on Greg's last name.
This is how it goes. We're all losing our short-term memory.
But I want to tell you about the aliens.
So this is in regards to the play that you wrote.
Yeah. So there was a theater in Bixby Knolls, Long Beach. It's one of those cute little downtowns that where the storefronts are right on Atlantic Boulevard facing it. You got a reptile store next to an upscale barbershop, next to a brewery. And Bixby Knolls has been around a while, so it's an older city, but it's they've it's been cleaned up and it's very vibrant. Has a nice Orthodox Jewish population, has a young family population. It's just a really nice mix. And so there's a theater right there. It's only 45 seats in this theater, so it's a small theater, and they did a lot of Shakespeare. I came in and did some original plays, some radio plays even. They would do radio plays there. So the old-fashioned radio plays, you can come see them act out and do all the sound effects and everything. So they have this thing called First Fridays, which a lot of these cute towns have, right? Or they call it an art walk. And so the city would kind of stay open later. Musicians would appear on the sidewalk every 25 feet or so. People selling crystals and whatever. So the idea was the theater would always have their door open and people would walk in and they'd get a little tour if they wanted. Oh, I didn't know this was here. I got to come to a play here. Well, what I did is I created a play that they could see that would last 20 minutes for $1 or $2 donation. And then it ran every half hour. So we would do 5 shows on that night. And I'm gonna tell you, I got these actors to just pull out all the stops, to bring their best. There was so much entertainment in that 20 minutes for that $1 or $2 that was paid. And they came in, and one of them was called The Great LA Air Raid.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that was a real thing that happened. And what happened right around World War II is something appeared in the sky that our cannons and things shot at, and the government denied there was anything they were shooting at. But there's a picture in the, not the LA Times, but LA Herald or something, that shows there's something up there.
Battle of LA. That's what they called it.
What's that?
They called it the Battle of LA.
Oh, okay. And and I'd heard of it called the Great LA Air Raid. And so what I did, because the theater was already doing these kinds of plays where, the radio shows. Well, that was around the time, radio shows around the time of that Great LA Air Raid. So what I did was I created a variety show of acts happening on stage that get interrupted by the air raid. Okay. So I have all these characters and all these 40s costumes, 40s, 50s dressed, in those kinds of suits and everything. I had 3 singers off to the side who were doing, the boogie woogie, but that kind of singing, that kind of, and then, but the trick was outside on the sidewalk, we had to start the play out there to get interest, to get people to come in every half hour. Right. So we started the play on the sidewalk. I have a loud voice. I gave myself a role of doing that sort of thing and creating a scene, and was angry at one of my musicians for being late, and you get in there. And anyway, had a real life trumpet player who would play at the audience with music playing through the speakers. I had The Shadow. For people who know about The Shadow, was a very popular radio show. He was a detective who could make himself invisible and walk amongst the bad guys.
Only the shadow knows.
Only the shadow knows the secrets that lie in men's hearts, or something like that. And because apparently only men committed crimes back then. So I had a bank robbery going on with these actors acting it out, had that going on. And then the air raid happened, and a sergeant comes in. And what I did was I got a local the local councilman to come in and play that part, which is really cool because he'd never acted, and his sons were in the audience and everything for one of the shows. And I got a local company to donate an authentic uniform, and he came in basically and was at odds with the person who was running everything, who didn't want to lose money, who didn't want to shut down the production. He said, I can't stop it. But he's like, there's a war going on. I'm taking over the studio. I'm going to tell, and I was that person. So he had me in grips and put me up against the wall and everything. And then you hear the shooting, screams, lights go off. And it's like, what are they shooting at? So then the lights go off, and then one of the actors comes out and addresses the audience and says, it's not known officially what happened during that time, but many of us suspect what did happen. Speech like that. So then the lights go down. Then this sound comes up. It's like really loud, like tense. And then there's an alien in the middle of the stage. This blackout turns to a spotlight aimed at the face for just a second with a loud sound for that sort of experience, and then it goes to all black. The lights go out. So they got that little of an alien.
Wow.
Anyway,
wow, that was very creative.
It was fun. It was fun.
This is right at the. We did a show. We just got back into. Anyway, we did a show. Friday with Franco.
Yep.
Right. And at the end of the show, we started to touch on what we'll call ETs, ET family, or whatever you want to call it, and their involvement. There you go. And I said, so next time, because we'd already gone almost 2 hours, next time let's start off with this in a couple of weeks when we do it again. But so what I was going to, and what I intend to talk to him about is, of course, that what is that? What is man-made? And I'm not just talking about machines. I'm talking about propaganda and narratives and stories, and what is not. And because we have discussed it over the years when we've had shows before, but not like spent a lot of time on it. But so if you look at, for instance, the Battle of LA, and also, which was around the same time period, the Foo Fighter, or not the Foo Fighters, but the formation of UFOs that basically just sat above the White House. Remember, it was about the same time.
We know that.
Yeah, it's the same thing as the Battle of LA, where they had irrefutable evidence and plenty of witnesses, and there's video and or photographs as well. Now, in the Battle of LA, there was something like, I want to say something like 1,500 rounds of anti-aircraft fire that was shot. In Washington, there were jets that were sent up, but they were basically neutralized. So this is real stuff. Now, the story, and this is also the time period of Operation High Jump, when Admiral Byrd and 4,500 troops and an armada, battleship, airplanes, whole nine yards, aircraft carriers went down to Antarctica on a scientific mission, and 6 weeks later came back with massive casualties. Okay. So the story is supposedly, well, I'm not going to say supposedly, one of the stories is, which seems pretty credible to me, and this is not where I'm going with it. I'm actually going to go with what I wanted to see what your thoughts were on what I wanted to talk to Franco about. But the credible narrative is that the Nazis got their technology from from an ET species. It has been attributed to Aldebaran. The Real Society, they channeled, they gave them the information, and then all that stuff. Everyone knows that the Nazis were very much into the occult. Anyway, bottom line is that the war was presented, at least in how it ended in the story, like so much of history was told. Here's what happened. When there's a strong evidence of the Nazis, some went to NASA, some went to Russia, some went to the CIA and whatever, but that the mass of them went down to Antarctica and to South America, the southern part of South America. Mm-hmm. And so these two episodes occurred so that they could show the West their capabilities, which they already knew because of the stories of the Foo Fighters that the airline, the pilots had and all that. And then, of course, High Jump kind of reiterated that. So my question is, this is what brought it up. Since about 1st of December, and hello, Jin. She's sitting next to a creek. She wants to support Brother Scott. Yes, that's what we're all about. And by the way, Eric is the first speaker we asked, and he's going to be a speaker, and Jin's going to
awesome.
come to as well to Soulogy Fest. But anyway, so I noticed it was around end of November, 1st of December, right before the 12/12 hits. All the stuff with the election is going, what's happening, and this is happening, and all these different theories and all that. And that former space chief of Israel came out. He's 89 years old now. He came out and said, hey, we've been talking to him for years. We have a base on Mars. Americans are living on that base on Mars. So he came out with this information. And we all know for years and years, people are like, okay, when the time comes, there's going to be a fake alien invasion, and they're going to have a soft disclosure and all that.
Right.
So since then, I've noticed that every day in the fake news, the mainstream media, every single day, there's a new revelation, such as this American Airlines pilot in New Mexico who said a cigar-shaped UFO pulled up next to him. The next day it comes out, oh, this happens all the time. CIA releasing the 2 videos, and you got this and you got that. So part of me is going, okay, this is scripted, obviously. Here it comes. They're going to unleash, all this information. And then part of me goes, but where does the true galactics come in? How does that work? And if you think about the conversation I had with Eric Rankin Smith, where he channeled Ashtar, some of that information kind of coming from that angle. So like, where does one start and where does one, stop, and where does one begin? I don't know. But what are your thoughts? I mean, you've been doing this, you've been in this, and especially out there. I mean, you've rubbed shoulders with a lot of people, and I would imagine that, you've got some ideas on that. I'm just curious what your thoughts are.
My thoughts are that it's the difference between internal and external. So Eric was channeling somebody internally that came from him, and that knowledge resonates with him. I'm sure he doesn't care whether it resonates with anyone else or not. He knows it's true, and he puts it out there like other channelers do for people who it does resonate with. Externally, it's funny. I think we fall into a trap sometimes. I've done this where it's like, I want that external thing and I want to apply it to me and make it work, or a magic pill, and that sort of thing. But the inner wisdom, the real stuff comes from inside, and you've done tons of work. This. It's and that's where it's at. I don't think we're going to meet externally out there at something. It's going to be an internal thing, which is a pull, which is why the people who are not doing that are not going to recognize or care what those other people are doing. Bashar says they'll be invisible at a certain point, and the train tracks are getting further and further apart. and then it's just a matter of anyone who wants to, and if they want to, they can just take a dive into the pond inside of them, their own personal pond, and go down and find, and come up, and it's a funny thing, because almost the more you'll want it, the more it's not going to happen, right? Because that kind of wanting, 3D external, but the more you surrender to yourself and open your heart, then all things will come unto you. Is that a Bible phrase? Something.
Dude, that was a great explanation. It really was, because that falls in line with what people have said coming on here, what I have experienced, which is that they're us, right? They're
Absolutely.
us. And so, so they're us, just like with Morgan and I. We've talked about our experiences. The room filled up with 8 or 10 humanoid, but in time it came back to they were us. All right. And so we created that seemingly external, projection of this. They looked like holographic. They were translucent, but something was happening. Something was up. Now, and I love your explanation, because why would the external presentation coming from the egoic part of man, why would it limit itself to what's been fed on the mainstream media or what narratives have been fed? Why wouldn't it go into the depths of these other things? We just landed on Mars. They're talking about the moon again. I mean, it just, to me, the good, exciting thing is however that stuff's laid out, because I think both will continue to expand, both the internal and the external. But the exciting thing to me is that it looks like it's starting to hit a climatic point, like Pandora's box is about to be opened in a good, I mean that, in a good way, in all respects.
I believe that completely. It feels right to me. In fact, I know that. I don't know if it means the 3% thing, and that's the tipping point, or whatever the percent is. And actually, in a way, it doesn't matter, as long as you have your own spiritual renaissance.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying before. Another way of saying it is, you don't need to believe anybody else. You don't need to, just go in and seek your own truth. It's there. And ironically, letting go of outside and going inside and trusting inside and what you are, who you are, that's where it comes. And so you don't have to believe anyone. You can go in and tap into it there, and bring that knowing up. And then now you're vibrating differently. And maybe you're watching different TV shows, you're hanging with different people, you're doing different things. And it's a beautiful thing. Isn't
that crazy though? Like, isn't it crazy that it all comes back to that? Like in the sacred books, seek the kingdom within, or the kingdom is within, or go inside. But isn't it crazy that all this convoluted, complicated stuff is in the field, and yet both the simplest thing and the last thing you're going to do is all you? And it's like, how can this be? But I do think that people are starting to see clear evidence of their internal transformation and self-responsibility and self-accountability as a creator. I do think many people, I'm watching it, are seeing the external manifestation of the work they've done on themselves. And it's starting like with their relationship, like me and Morgan, you and Maria, or their work, or, these smaller circles. Yeah. And then you would only think that it would, but it almost sounds like it is like a fairy tale, like a.
Well, definitely from 3D for sure. But it's also kind of fun. I find it fun. You interviewed someone on your show. What's the gentleman's name again who had that property that you're going to be doing the event in?
Sham.
he said that when he encountered an extraterrestrial and was going to be taken aboard and taken somewhere, he said, I need you to take this pill, I think it was, because your vibration's low. You would be very, really hurt if we traveled in your current vibration. So this is going to raise your vibration. So I love that little anecdote because it's indicative of other things we've heard. Anytime you're going to be in communication, if you want to open yourself up to the galactic versions of yourself, it's not going to be through the brain. It's going to be through the heart, which is connected to the spirit, to the soul. So
I love that. I love that. I love the way you said that, the galactic versions of yourself. So that also brings into my mind, different this is Anubis, but different. I just particularly like Anubis because of our Sedona experiences I've had with him. I'm not really attached to him, that consciousness, or any other one, but so you have like this galactic thing, and then you have, other things, Egyptian and, Avalon, and of course Atlantis and Lemuria and all these different things. And I look at this experience that we're having, and I'm going, okay, there's me, there's that whole field of everything from Jesus to, Ashtar to whatever, elementals, colors, dragons, all this different stuff. Yet the galactics seem to be like the closest to us. And a lot of people say that they're our future selves. I almost feel like they're our past, like they are the most recent past, and I wonder why are they so prominent? And so to me, there seems to be kind of a mission aspect to the galactic channelings, and downloads, as opposed to the other ones have sacred wisdom and all that, but this seems to be more specific to the transformation opportunity that we have as a collective.
And for anyone who's listening and channeling and passing all that information, we're grateful for that. Bashar has mentioned that, or Daryl Anka, who channels Bashar, has mentioned that Bashar is a futuristic version of Daryl, is a future version, I believe. And it's exciting. I mean, when you sit and you come to certain realizations, you realize who you are, you get in contact with yourself, and then you start going, well, and I noticed I was this kind of person recently, or I exhibited this, so maybe there's different aspects. Well, how many dimensions to me are there? And when you keep going down that rabbit hole or through those portals and whatnot, it's exciting, and I'm still exploring. Totally. And it's fun. And you remember and realize life is what you make it. Okay. And if you believe that this is all an illusion, this is a matrix or an inverted matrix, or, as Franco would say, then, well, what am I capable of? What can I do? And a lot of people just stop there. They don't go further than that. It's like, you can do a lot. There's wonderful things. And actually, to be honest, that's one of the things I'm looking forward to, is we take the shuttle bus out into Sequoia National Forest and Joshua Tree and everything. I want to get out there and spend a lot of time with just maybe no cell reception and just boondock and hang out for a couple of days in nature and just make those connections better. And
yeah. I mean, hang on. I just want to go back to our sister Karen. She wanted to know where she can get
Radiance
in San Diego.
Okay, good. There's 5 or 6 metaphysical stores. I don't have the list with me, but if you look, the metaphysical stores get them. A lot of the yoga studios. I remember driving through there last time. There's one yoga studio called Radiance, and they were doing out in the parking lot. Well, that was kind of fun. I'm bringing their magazines.
So basically, she could Google those types of things. Probably just do it by distance and go to the closest one and find one.
Absolutely. Or go to radiancemm.com, and it's all free there.
Radiancemm.com. So everyone can get a virtual copy of the magazine there.
Yeah, there's a digital copy. You can flip the pages, see how it lays out, or click on articles in the traditional way.
Right on. Radiancemm.com.
Yep.
Right. I always get it wrong. What were you just talking about? Oh, so the first thing I got to say, and then I'll get serious, is I've obviously traveled around a little bit, and I prefer to have a porta potty. That's just me.
Potties.
Huh?
Let's talk potties.
Is your vehicle going to have a latrine?
You know, it's funny. It's going to be. There's a movie out right now about this that's just won some awards, and they say it's going to win the Academy Award for Best Movie. Nomadland, right? Frances McDormand is playing a person who is a recent widower who goes out and has the van life, lives in a van that's decked out for living, and it's pretty good. But she's a little depressed because she's a recent widower, so it's got that kind of element to it. But most of the times when you put in van life on in YouTube or van life conversions, how do you do it? A bunch of happy people out there showing
Jen Reynolds has put out some good stuff. Eric Smith, Eric Rankin.
Yeah. So so you decide what you want to do. Do you want to be, if you want to do this kind of life, do you want to be the kind of person that just finds an RV park and plugs in and everything's done, and which some people say, I feel like I paid for a hotel room, but I didn't get the room.
Right.
Because you're still paying. Because part of the idea.
I've done that. Yeah.
Okay.
I've done that, and I've done where I did it without Morgan, where I just pulled over, had a generator, had an RV, and had a generator. Okay. But again, I had my own facilities. But then what you were saying is you're looking at really getting out there and just being in nature. And so I've done a lot of that, with or without an RV or even a vehicle, and over the last 10 years. And of course, a lot of people talk about, I was reading the Sandra Walter post this morning, and she was talking about the energies that are here, that the opportunity for expansion and what's going on. But she was saying, get out with the sun and get out with the earth. And I know that, again, that sounds cliche. That sounds like go within, and it sounds like new age-ish and all that, but it's real. Like, that's a real thing for you to be out there. There's something happens. I won't say something, but some things happen. And it's not.
I've seen it. Yeah. These videos, I've seen these. I'll see a particular couple or a person, these like 75-year-old women who are out there on their own doing it. Yeah. I'll see them do an interview and, hey, this is what I'm doing. And I'll see an interview of them a couple of years later, and they're so much calmer. There's a calmness to them, a lack of anxiety that we're used to seeing with others at times. And I'm looking forward to that. There's trade-offs, right? It's you're making trade-offs in a house, in an apartment, in even certain RVs. You can flip a switch and everything happens for you, and you don't have to think about it. RVs, you got to plug in somewhere, and But and I'm seeing some questions here of people saying. I know people want to know, and here's what we found. What we found, and almost to a person, that all these videos we watch, they say, look, when you walk into certain RVs, you smell chemicals, and those chemicals are disguising what they're disguising. Okay,
right.
And so you got that smell, and we didn't want that. And a lot of people online are going, you don't need to do that. You have a system where there's a bag. And there's peat moss or sawdust. Peat moss, I think I hear, is the best. Peat moss, they make whiskey with that and whatnot. It covers up the smell 100%. And then a certain point, every couple of days, whatnot, you throw out the bag, and that's it. It's really simple. And they across the board, people said, I've spent $1,000 on a toilet, but if you do this, that's all you need. And those friends of ours last year, they gifted a month, and then we rented. That's when COVID hit, so we had it for like 4 months. But so it had a bathroom, but you're right. You had to, and we didn't use it a lot. When I went by myself, I did, but you're right. I noticed that immediately because I was on it. Like you treat it, you treat it. With these little tablets and bleach or whatever it is, but you would, and I did notice that, and I didn't like that. Right. I didn't like that. And it's a part of the whole lifestyle. I mean, minimalism, right? Minimalism, in fact, is a documentary on Netflix, and there's a couple of them where they talk about just, I mean, how many plates do you need if you're two people? You get away with 2 plates, 2 forks, maybe.
Yeah, that's what we did.
Yeah. And that's what we're going to do. And we've already started. In fact, we already do tiny living. We live in a small space. We've been practicing for, well over a year or two. And that's part of it. And we realize we still got to purge even more. We've elected to keep a small storage space for just a little while, just to, for some things. Maybe
so your intention as it stands, which everything can be reset. But I mean, your intention is to do this full time.
Oh yeah. Oh, we're committed. We're done. We've given notice where we're living, and we're 1 month. We're gone.
Wow. Far out.
Yeah, we want to
far out.
Mostly in the Western United States. We figure. I mean, I've never seen Santa Fe. We're going to go back to Sedona. We're going to go up in Northern California. A lot of beautiful forests.
Sure.
Tree, Sequoia, Yellowstone, all that, and we want those as our backyard. And just pull up, and there's a lot of free land where you can boondock. BLM stands for Bureau of Land Management. A lot of land you can just go and camp out for up to 14 days.
Wow.
Just bring your water, and you got a little bit of electricity for from solar, and you're good.
Far out, man. Really. I mean, I'm probably gonna have to get over it. I don't have a problem with anything, but I guess if a bear does it in the woods, I can do it too.
Sure. When I was in high school, we went to not Yellowstone, but the other Yosemite, and we did that thing where we went for 3 nights and 4 days. We hiked into the back parts of the park at Yosemite, and we made a latrine. We were in tents, and even met a family that was living back there that was taking care of a supposedly like an old gold mine. And they just came into town once a month for school books and supplies, and they lived there and took care of it. I don't know if they're doing it anymore, but that was a great experience. And I remember when I came home, I was still living at home, obviously in high school, and I camped outside in the backyard because I just couldn't stop doing it. It felt so good. For one night, then I was in my bed after that. But
there's something about that.
There is. There is. And we are detached from it. So anytime people can get to a river, the trees, a park, it's just a gift to your soul.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Words can't describe.
No, that's the way I navigated myself the first couple of years, because I was homeless. But I mean, even after that, I lived next door to for 2.5 years, and then I lived next door to a cemetery. A big cemetery. And so it had a lot of trees, and it had a bayou running through it. So that's where I did all my stuff, And when I say that, I mean, really, what is my stuff? My stuff, your stuff. It was just walking out there and doing it, just being there, right? And so there'd be animals and galactics, and there'd be other energies, and there'd be energies that I could smell, and there'd be energies that I might see, and there's just so much out there. It's right in front of our eyes. The trees are full of information for me. I don't know how everybody else is.
And other energies, like you say, galactic, another way. I mean, I know that there are many different kinds of beings moving through many different kinds of dimensions among us everywhere. But where are we more likely to perceive them? In places where there are less distractions, where we can be more clear by a creek, in nature. And we love it. That's why we go to the beach, we go to the parks, as often as we can, and for that kind of peace. And it resets you. And I love seeing those interviews of people who will see them as they're starting out, and a couple of years later, saw one guy his hair was a little greasier, but he was just like chill, he was obviously just happy. So I'm looking forward to greasier hair.
Yeah. Wow. Very cool, man. Very cool. So, and I guess you're going to keep doing the magazine.
Oh yeah. Oh no, we're staying close. I'm still going to, every 2 months, still going to deliver it. I'm still going to make my appointment, Yeah.
But you're going to, so how big is your vehicle?
25 feet. I mean, it's a little apart. It is. And we've even, if you go onto my Facebook page, we put some pictures up recently. Maria's such a good designer, has such good taste. It's like, wow, it's just so pops with the colors and everything that she ran by me, of course. I helped okay these things too, but she's got the touch, and it's just so beautiful. And it's 2 rooms. So there's the back bedroom, and there's windows back there, and then there's a window on top. And then the kitchen by a couch pulls out to another bed if we wanted, and it's awesome.
So because the RV that we rented last year was 26 feet. Yours is 25.
Yeah.
So that was an RV. So it actually okay. But the bus that was gifted to us. The Vera and Agassi just took off with that was 23 feet, and that's a pretty good size. I personally wouldn't want to be in anything bigger than about 28, just from a logistics standpoint, maybe 30 at the most. I mean, it's just,
Well, I'll tell you, the gentleman who helped us for a solid 2 weeks, we got someone to help us with some electrical and plumbing that was beyond our knowledge. And his name is Ismail, and he pulled up in his school bus that he has his 3 kids, wife, and a cat on a leash in. So,
are you serious?
Yeah.
That's a big bus, so that's got to be what, 35, 40 feet, maybe.
Yeah. And they make it work. That's got like a gypsy theme in it. And they come from Brazil, came up here, and they decided when they wanted to go home and go back to their life there, they decided, well, let's drive home, and let's, and the story actually in the back is actually very poignant to encapsulate it. Someone told him, they said, well, you got to watch out for on the road. You got to watch out for this and that. And they say, man is the only creature you really have to worry about. And he said, I don't think that's true. And he set out to see whether that was true or not. He said, for all the hundreds or thousands of people that they met who even helped them when they need a little help or assistance, or who are just kind, far outshadowed the 1 or 2,
right,
quote unquote bad apples that this wasn't their day or their time to meet with them. It was a beautiful experience, and it really just enlarged his heart for his fellow humans, and taught him people are wonderful and good, and just
that's a great.
It is,
and I think a big part. By the way, everybody, you should go to Scott Ware's page and look at these pictures of this vehicle, the inside of this vehicle. I just went to the last post you put up with it.
Yeah.
It's got a few pictures, but yeah, what this guy's talking about, I see that really being like, I try to really be careful as much as I can, more and more every day, of what I'm thinking, what I'm saying, and obviously what I'm doing, because I'm realizing, like I was having a conversation, I was listening to a conversation a couple of days ago, and the conversation, I wasn't talking, but I was listening, was revolved around, like building a community, that whole concept, that whole idea that we're all really kind of working on. Right. And some of the things that were being said to me, if I had entered the conversation, I would have been like, okay, wait a minute. Why are you working with that? In other words, they're old, the old stuff, the old things and rules and regulations, or whatever they may be, the old ideas, the old belief system.
Sure.
And I was going, okay, how is this going to look? So even like what he's saying to me, he's not allowing that into his field. He's not, if he were, then he would attract that. And I think what I'm trying to say is that I think we're getting to the point now where we're understanding our consciousness is us, and it doesn't happen to us, and we can actually bring this transformation, bring harmony, bring balance, equilibrium, and again, here we go again with the fairy tale-ish aspect of going within, and this is actually how it's done. which is crazy. It's crazy, cool, but it's crazy.
So how does that show itself in your life?
Well, I'll give you a good example. We had David Icke on January 13th, Sandra Walter and Marie Batchelor. And on that day, well, I have to say this because it was a big deal for us. I didn't know it till I went to check the stats, but we actually had 1 million minutes viewed live.
I remember.
No replays, everything was live.
Awesome.
And then whatever was on the replays. But so it was a great day. So I woke up the next morning, and lo and behold, we were banned from broadcasting on Facebook, and all the 2,500 shows had been removed. Now it was Facebook. It wasn't YouTube. It was just Facebook, which is the bulk of where we've done our stuff, right?
So it was tempting to freak out at that point.
Huh?
Was tempting to freak out, right?
Well, I came in here. Morgan was sitting out there, and I said, "This is what just happened." And I don't think I went into freak out. I did put up a notice immediately, a little meme, and I said, this is the situation, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I saw a couple of messages or comments, and they were like, "Oh, the big bad wolf's out to get you." And, so immediately when I felt that energy, I said, I got to go for somewhere. So I jumped in the car, I took my phone with me, and I jumped in the car, and I just kind of went to the Walmart parking lot, and I think I went to get something, but I was really contemplating all that stuff, right? And I just went, okay, wait a minute. I pulled the energy up. I said, what's happening? I think it just looked like a black kind of a mass, not negative, but, just that was the color. And I said, you're the same energy as me, and I would like to be able to archive the shows on social media and continue broadcasting as we have. And when I did that, I saw these people form around this oval energy. Obviously, they were contemporaries, brothers, sisters, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. And then I just said, whatever happens, may it be in the highest and best for all involved. And I let it go. And then I came back, and about 15 minutes after I came back, everything came back on with no explanation.
You're a wizard.
Well, but I don't know. I mean, I still don't know. Well, I think we have to take ownership of yes, I was a part of something in that moment. But I think that that's what I'm talking about. I mean, that's what your question is. I believe it's, look, you're about to jump in a van and go, that's going to be your home. And that's like you're going from the comfort zone that's uncomfortable, seeking comfortability in an unknown, right? I mean, I think this is what we're all faced with. We're all faced with, because look, let's face it, there's nothing out there that's stagnant, nothing that we've received, everything points to one thing: growth. So I think especially in this energy, when you, especially if there's two or more, right? Mm-hmm. Like you and Maria. So I think when we step forward and it is unknown, because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what it's going to be like because you haven't had the experience.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. I'm actually seeking discomfort as well.
Oh. Okay. Well, that's smart.
Yes.
Explain yourself. Explain yourself, Lucy.
I understand that I'll be giving up some creature comforts.
Yeah.
I may not be able to keep as many paletas or, ice creams in the freezer as I'm used to, because it's going to be a smaller freezer. That's a silly example, but there's other comforts I'll be giving up. We will be giving up, but we know this. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot we know that we don't know. And we're looking forward to seeing how we are going to be in those circumstances. And it's not like we're going from one life to another, because actually the transition of all this, the 3 months that we've been spending doing this, has been challenging as well. There's been things that have come up that have opened us up and expanded us in new ways. When I say challenging, it doesn't mean bad. It means there were things that came up that needed to come up.
Yeah.
Whether it was in me and Maria in the universe and what's presenting and what we're seeing, how we're experiencing it, because we get to choose how we experience things. We know that part of this is it's part of our spiritual journey. We've made it so. And I would think that anybody, whether they call it spiritual or not, who does something like this, you're going on a spiritual journey because you're going to be pushed into circumstances or situations that you wouldn't have living in an apartment or a house.
Yeah.
So we understand that. We are looking forward to being more mindful of the food we eat, of the power we use. How much power what can we do? Should we plug this in right now? How many amps is that? There's different considerations that you don't have in a house, as well as water, as well as showering. How long is the shower going to be? And that sort of thing. So we're looking forward to experiencing ourselves and all that, and getting rid of more layers that keep us from ourselves. So
I've not heard anybody said seeking discomfort, but certainly people have come into the last couple of years. People have really come into the understanding that when you're in discomfort, that's a big opportunity. Like that's where the gold is. And so I like that. I mean, it's not like you're seeking it like a masochist, or a sadist, but you're actually, you're going into the unknown, and that in itself is uncomfortable, if by our traditional terms, right? So, but another thing that you're saying too, that I think kind of falls in line with what's happening, because I probably could think of probably 10 people, give me about 2 minutes, that have pretty much done the same thing in the last year.
Mm-hmm.
And, I can think of, anyway, I won't get into the people, but what I'm getting at is like what you were describing about the 3 months leading up, or the past 3 months.
Oh, yeah.
I had this really strong impression that, and I know we've been through cycles of this before in this community, or at least we've talked about it over the years, but almost like a preparation, like we're being prepared.
Oh, yes.
It's like what you were talking about earlier about the Shams, right? Who said he got confronted, ran into an ET who said, well, you can go on the ship, but you got to take this pill because your vibration's too low. So that's what I'm getting at. Like we're moving into a space. That's why my body is taking a beating right now. Like I know my body's telling me, hey, like you either that soup was good, but no more solid food, man. And is it permanent? Is it temporary? I don't know. But I know it's got something to do with my frequency and being able to maintain myself as we collectively expand this thing. And so much has been written in the last 2 weeks in regard to this period that we're in right now, and then March 1st. Yeah.
I with everything that's happening to us, and people who want to stay at the forefront of their soul's progression, they want to be progressive, they want to own it, they want to do their zero pointing exercises to stay ahead of it, instead of being, you want to be with the flow and not be a part of the population that's being forced, by force or by flow these days. We know that embarking on this trip is enabling us to also continue that flow, and we're saying the way it's going to go and how we're going to experience things.
Exactly.
So, and by the way, for anyone who wants to do it or is considering doing it, it's funny. Every time I talk about all the trips we made to Home Depot and Lowe's, talk to employees, about half of them we talk to say we're doing, they go, I've been wanting to do that. I watch Tiny Living all the time and this and that. I said, well, just go onto YouTube, type in van life, bus life conversions and all that, and you'll see it. And then you'll go down that rabbit hole and you'll learn all you need to know. It's there, it's available. It can start as cheap as, a few $1,000s to pick up something that's definitely a fixer upper to, RVs that are $100,000, $200,000,
Gingy and Reynolds video. I'm not sure. I think it's, I don't remember what her YouTube channel's called, but the one she did, her and Nick, was really good. I mean, it was very informative. It's not a big space,
right?
And the way they explain it and the way they show it's really good. But I think too, like what you're talking about with the employees at Depot and Lowe's. Like like I just see more and more every day. I just see everything as energy, and energetically, this seems to what you're doing and what they're wanting to do and what others are doing is like symptomatic to me of ascension. It's not where we'll be,
right,
but it's like on the way to where we're going. Although I do think I've always felt, and the visions I got 10 years ago in regard to Soulogy, that was basically like the Sufis, like the Sufis, the whirling dervishes. They roll into town, they put up their tent, they got food, they got music, they got dance, they got art, they got spirituality, and basically community. And so there I think is going to be a nomadic aspect to wherever we're headed, which could probably mean a lot more than our physical bodies.
Well, with my theater background that I talked about earlier with you, I've joked with Maria about, well, maybe we can make it kind of a gypsy wagon and, have our flutes and put on a little show for people. She's like, show? Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, but that's what they did back then.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
That's what they did. And we're talking the Sufis, these were Rumi and the boys, I mean, this was, and I don't know, I've always seen it that way. And in fact, when I got the visions, when I first got I'm talking week 1, I just saw this video in my head of bridges and, crossing rivers and in a bus, in a train. I didn't really know what it was, but there was definitely some type of caravan going on. It wasn't just, the vehicle I was in. Yeah, this is cool, man. So we're going to see you it's March 1. So we got March, April, and basically 90 days.
End of May, yeah. Yeah, we're going to be in Sedona. We'll roll up and
May 28th, yeah.
Yep. And that property that you're doing it on is awesome. We'll park nearby and boondock and.
Yeah, you were there more than I was. You spent more time there than I did. You got to talk to Shams, and I talked to him a little bit. Yeah, I was happy.
You were a keynote speaker.
Yeah. I was. I was wanting to be there more, but we had some other stuff going on. But yeah, I'm really excited. I just found out we were looking at 4 different locations, and I was really hoping we'd get that one. Even though we could probably handle more people, but 80 people I think is pretty good for a first Soulogy Fest. Absolutely. What's happening in Sedona is May 28th, 29th, and 30th. Kathy Mason, the first Soulogy Fest ever, is on the books. Scott Ware is going to be a part of it. And more to come later.
Maria Lomelli.
So when you guys are hitting the road in 2 weeks?
We're going to do a little camping in a week, and then we're going to be out completely in 4 weeks.
So your lease is up in 4 weeks.
That's right.
Holy shiitake mushrooms, man.
I know. And we're going to do a podcast from the road. We just didn't want to start it till we were out there doing it. This is one thing to talk about it now. And like I said, we've been camping, we've done different things, but this is, and we feel it's part of, it's a natural progression of our, you want to call it sacred union relationship and whatnot. We both can work remotely. See, that's the key. If you can work remotely, if you don't have to work in an office, if you can set it up that way, that's great.
Those days are gone, aren't they?
What's that?
I said those days are gone, aren't they? Working in an office.
There's a lot of people still doing that. And they went back to offices, but a lot of them were given more free reign. I mean,
it's the beginning, I think.
If you can do that, why not make your backyard Malibu or Joshua Tree or Sequoia National Forest? So that's what we're going to do. We'll be working. And we'll have our Wi-Fi and our cell booster signal, things. But that's one of the things this weekend we're going to experiment with some of that. And we're going to tell our, family and friends, you may not hear from us for 3 days. We may be cut off. It may not work with cell where we're going, but yeah, we see it as a progression, as a part of our spiritual journey. Cause certain couples, as aren't together just for the traditional ideas of coupleness, just for romance, just for all those things. We really are for expansion, to help each other expand, to hold space for each other to expand. And this kind of experience we see as being key for that. It's going to be wild. It's going to be a blast. And And we've even said, hey, maybe in a few years, maybe we'll want to move back to a place. And I've seen a lot of people on my Facebook page that says, yeah, I did it for a while. And I said, are you going to do it again? Yeah, I'm just moving some pieces around to get there. But a lot of people get addicted to, it sounds silly, being in nature. Most of us live probably in suburbia, and we're kind of, we got a few trees around, but when you're out there for a while and you camp, you feel how good it feels. And I can't tell you how many times I left Big Bear here in California saying, oh, I'm going to be back here next weekend or the weekend after. It doesn't happen. You get swallowed up by the rhythms of life right then. And
you're in a huge metropolis, though. That's a huge one.
Yeah.
I mean, I lived there twice. I don't know how you can. I mean, I know I could do it, but I mean, that's just how do you? I don't know. I guess everything is relative to where you're at. I mean, I'm in a small town, but we back up to a forest. So, I mean, I just I walked out last Wednesday. We had some friends coming in town. I walked outside and I saw 3 hawks on 3 different points on the lot. Like I knew something was coming, right? So that's nature to me. That's the way it works, And
have you ever interviewed? There's he's a wizard and like an elfin wizard, Aaron Michael Pine.
No, never heard of him. Hook me up.
He's awesome. In fact, he's in the magazine. He's created this game called Inner Realms Journey. And it's a game that takes you into yourself. It's the kind of game we wish we'd had as a kid or something. And it's all about going deeper and deeper in your relationship with nature. And he lives in New Zealand right now, and he's hanging out and showing pictures on his Facebook posts about, where they shot Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
He and I talk, we collaborate, and he's helped me get more in touch with elementals, with nature, with talking to trees. Oh, yeah. I mean, he has fun with it, and sometimes he'll wear the hood and he'll have the walking staff, and he kind of pokes fun at it. But he's very lighthearted, and he'd be a great interview, and he brings it.
Yeah, there's some cool energy over there. Hone Edmonds, he's from there. Gary Cook, have you seen him?
Who is it?
Gary Cook. Look up Gary Cook on Facebook. He does videos. I play him in the remix sometimes, and very connected, man. Sounds a lot like this guy, actually.
Okay.
I forgot about this, but I saw this. I actually saw like this fairy castle the other day.
Oh.
I looked. You know how it is. You look and you see, and then you look back, and it's not there, basically. But
yes.
I know I saw it.
See, that's the thing. Believe, and you and I know. Believe. Yes, you saw it. Most people don't. They have a mystical experience or like that, and that's happened. And that's an interesting thing, because I think I told you in the last time. I don't know if I told you that I had a great uncle who's transitioned now, but he was a priest who could move things without touching them. Did I tell you about him?
No, you didn't tell me about this.
Every time he would bless us, he would put his hand. I remember feeling it at the top of my hair. I was about 13 or 14 the last time I think he did. And all of a sudden I'm on the floor. And I'm like, I'm going to see how he does it this time. And he just puts you down. Put my father down on the floor, my mother, my brother, my sister.
Wow.
He had this power, and he hung out with these other Catholic priests. I'm not Catholic, but he was. And at this house in Pomona, and people would come and see them. And I guess with a donation, you get a private audience and have these experiences. I remember just like, I want to know how that works. And that showed me there was magic. But I remember talked to my mom about this about 6 months ago. I said, remember when Father Richard used to do that with us? He goes, no. I'm like, Mom, we were all down on the floor. What don't you remember? I don't, and then he talked in tongues. He'd walk in our backyard reading his little prayer book, and his tongue would be
light language.
Light language. I don't know light language. Any of us can do it.
Yeah.
But that was new. That was 80s or late 70s. And he did exorcisms and all these things. But now we know that, yeah, we can do these things. But the fact that my mom forgot, it happens. These mystical experiences happen, and they I don't think that really happened. It did. Believe it, go with it, have fun with it. Don't take it so seriously, and more will open up. That's my suggestion to people.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
What you thought you saw the corner of your eye, just imagine.
I saw it because I can remember in detail. I could actually probably draw it or even paint it. It. I can't paint, but I mean color it. I could tell you exactly what it looked like.
Sure.
And that's true too about what you said too. If I think back in my own situation, so much of what I received most of it was in nature. Some of it wasn't, but most of it was in nature, and it just I remember one day I had a big day where I had to walk like 6 miles. I got thrown out of a place. So I had to carry my luggage, walk through. It was a natural setting. It was like on the west side of Houston, but it was like the ditches where they have the big ditch, like when Schwarzenegger rode in the Terminator, but there was a lot of grass around it. And 6 times, as I'm sitting there with each step, trying to maintain my sanity, keep going, no money, no job, no nothing, right? Hot summer day, fully clothed, carrying my luggage, pulling my luggage. And 6 times, 6 different red-tailed hawks swooped down in front of me over this hike, But you can't make that stuff up, man. And I knew with each one of them, with each one of them, I was being told, go, you're good, go, you're good, know. And that's how it always has been. We had it when we went on the way back from Corpus after going through all that. One flew right in front of us. And I knew at that point that, that was another thing that happened too. Like we left, and I've driven that Corpus to Dallas hundreds of times, right? And I know the speed limits change, but after the experience of that whole thing, time was like we literally got in the car, looked at each other, and we're at the Oklahoma border 5.5 hours later. It was always a 7-hour trip to Dallas, and then you got another hour to Oklahoma. But like, boom, like that. Like everything just, and I've been seeing those types and feeling those types of things, glitches, just weird things happening with more frequency. So I see all this stuff as being a really good sign, including like what you're talking about, the energetics of van life and people moving that direction, talking to the people in Home Depot and Lowe's, it's physically materializing, which is very cool. And I think this whole, but I think the things that, like, let's say the virus suggestion, the quarantines, the masks, the vaccines, all that stuff, I think is actually a great catalyst because I think it's pushing people into this kind of more of a sovereignty frequency.
Yeah, I agree. We're getting help from the universe for sure. And if anyone has any doubt, if for people who are atheists or think after this it's just a dirt nap and that's it, okay. Even if I didn't want to, even if I was skeptical about certain ethereal or esoteric concepts, I could say, look, okay, this is worldwide. This is an event. Let's just say there's an intelligence behind this. Let's just say it wasn't World War III, thank God. There were no bombing of, it wasn't that we're being asked to wake up to. We're being asked to wake up to a pandemic. If you understand that no one dies, then it's not going to be as painful, perhaps, when people pass. If we know we choose our incarnation, what we're going to do, then that was planned. Those people just were not going to party with the rest of us 7.8 billion people who are moving forward, and that's fine. But the fact that it is like that, it just speaks to, if you believe in anything, believe this is for a reason.
Right.
Spirit, it's my experience. Spirit doesn't do anything for just one reason. There's 6, 7, 8 reasons, and come up with those reasons as time goes on. Oh yeah, I know what that. Okay. And just be open. And one thing I've even become open to lately more than ever is emotions. I'll just go here real quick. I've had some health challenges lately. that that are going well. And a lot of it, I'm in a relationship with someone who comes from a family or a culture, a family culture where they're very open and demonstrative and issues are out on the table. Mine's a little more repressed, maybe a lot more. Maybe that's what a repressed person would say about their family. It's a tad repressed, maybe a lot. And when it comes to men and their emotions, particularly, we know how that is. We're not usually encouraged to process them.
Yeah.
But the fact is, we're all about emotions, and emotions help us get in touch with our soul, with our essence. And so I've been paying a lot more attention to that, to letting them out. And as Maria and I have agreed, even if it looks a bit, messy, let it out. Because if you don't let it out, you get sick. It could stay and it can manifest as something else. Might as well let it out. Let's work it out. So that's something that's been in our field too. That's been helpful.
Well, yeah, I appreciate you sharing that because that's very helpful to people. Your friend, Mateus De Stefano.
You
right?
called him my friend because I've interviewed him and you have, but that's work.
No. Well, yeah, I just meant well, you know him, you met him, right? So, but and I talked about this on the last show, and I knew it was important. So I was chilling out after the trip. Morgan went to go see a friend. I turned on YouTube, and there's a 17-minute presentation that he did for Gaia, but I think it's on UMTV or UATV YouTube channel, and it's called "How Did the Galactic?" And he didn't say Federation, but the Galactic Council form. And so the interesting thing about what you're saying, and I really feel like that this is a big deal right now because it is involving physical transformation, the effect of like what you're talking about, the repression of emotions. There you go.
Mateus De Stefano.
Mateus De Stefano. So what he was saying was he talked about how this dimension was created from the sixth dimension and how we did this and how we communicate vibrationally, what we call channeling and so on. But the thing that was really most interesting was that he said that once the earth was created, that the council formed to kind of manage the galaxies, right? In the lower dimension, third dimension. And then there was a vote, and the vote was, do you want to bring these mammals into our level?
Right.
And the majority of the votes was no. And the reason it was no was because we were so powerful, more powerful than them. And the basis of our power was the emotions, which they didn't really have. And so when I was watching it, I was going, okay, wait a minute. So this is why feeling your emotions is so important. Expression of the emotions is important. So it all started to make sense to me in some kind of way up here that I can't really verbalize, but I got the mastery being that yes, your emotions are part of us just as much as our channeling and our past life memory and all that stuff. In fact, it's even bigger, and that the mastery is we bring that, essentially into our heart. Somehow, some way. And then this is the basis of our alchemic abilities, So I think that like what you just described, I've noticed a lot of people, many people talking about similar situations of different degrees of intensity where I haven't seen any evidence, but I bet if you took a poll, doctor visits are down and more people are handling it. Not that they're not going to the doctor, but they're understanding that there's a link between their mindset and, their openness, I guess, to their health.
Well, and I know as we became more of an industrialized society and went away from the farming model to mass production, put kids in classes in grids and expect them to behave a certain way. And Stephen Covey had a quote that said, be efficient with things, but be effective with people.
Yeah.
Problem is, and too often, and I've done it. I was trying to be efficient with people. Okay, people, we got to do this, got to do that, but like you just kind of run over them.
Right.
And society, you know, one could say the inverted matrix and society has done that. And so it's up to people when they want to step out of that.
Yeah.
And so when you realize that and you slow down and you start using words like alchemy or like determining you could be an alchemist, I could be well, what does that mean? How can you be an alchemist and not work with your emotions? Emotion, well, that's very, that's not very specific. That's very general. What is, you know, and that's the place I'm in now. I'm in a place of exploration of that. I'm still learning. And
yeah. And I think in all aspects we are, but it's, you know, what we're doing is being, you know, reciprocated like never before. I remember in 2018, we got married in New Jersey. We had this event. A friend of ours' son had passed, and she was having a celebratory event, which was an all-day kind of Soulogy thing. We had a DJ and the mic, and it was the rapping and the interviewing and the dance. And so it was very cool. But the next day, it just worked out that we were going to have this ceremony, divine union, you know, legally a marriage.
Yeah, it's a beautiful ceremony.
You remember that? So it had anyway. But my point is, what? What was my point about that? Okay. So we were having the event the night before. Now this was on typical Soulogy style back then, like 2 days notice, blasted out on Facebook. We're not in like the heart of suburbia. We're like out in the country, small town, and New Jersey. And but there had been people coming to the ceremony and coming for the event. So there ended up being like 90 people in this parking lot. Well, one guy lived down the road, evidently was at home. His roommate said, hey, you ought to go to this Soulogy thing. He said, what the F is Soulogy? And anyway, the guy shows up. So there was a point late in the night when I just said, does anybody want to have anything they want to say? And this guy walks up, the guy I'm talking about, and he gives this 15-minute dissertation on alchemy. And talks about how he had cancer. And he talks about how blood is the alchemic base for gold. Now he's talking figuratively and literally, you know, energetically and physically. I mean, but the energetic expression overall of what he had to say was how alchemy applies first and foremost in the body. And that he was living proof. And the fact that he came out of nowhere, you know, was just but it's along the same frequency and the same type of experience that you're experiencing and sharing and talking about.
And it's getting conscious to the fact, I'm just, you know, for myself, getting conscious of the fact that I'm in this biological suit, having a spiritual being, having a human experience, and slowing down to that fact, being more conscious of what I put in my body, of what I expose myself to energetically as well. And maybe I need to do a little meditating right now. Maybe I need to listen to a guided meditation on YouTube right now and, you know, clear my field and just taking care of myself and not treating myself, being efficient with myself as well. And, you know, I know there's some days you just got to do what you got to do, or you have things you got to do, but my goal is to be as mindful and conscious as possible in all of that, open heart. And then what happens, you know, you have all these things you got to do, and then something throws you out. There's a little something that comes in. Well, maybe that's the moment of grace, or maybe that's the person who needs medicine from you, or you need medicine from them, or what have you. And just to be conscious and aware of those opportunities. Because all come here with medicine, that's for sure.
We just had some friends from Europe come in. You might know them, Vera, Ingeborg, and Augusti Sala. And they've been traveling around America for a year to the day they arrived. And we also have another friend that lives right down the road, and a couple that lives up about 10 miles up the road. But my point is that we had several gatherings over this 5 days, you know, doing just different things. And there was so much code exchange And so much of it, I don't think was conscious.
Sure.
Like the vast majority of it wasn't even conscious, but we could all feel the energy. And I really feel like what you just said is becoming because like in your case, because you're walking into the situation and you're not judging and you're not projecting or externalizing or have expectations. You're
That's
just seeing it for what it is.
Yes.
Not for what it is not. You're not making it something. You're just allowing it to speak to you, and I think this is something that more and more people, there's these little things that are changing everything from the individual. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. RadianceMM.com, Scott Ware on Facebook. We're going to be seeing more and more of him as they hit the road. And we're really happy that he's going to be in Sedona, May 28th, 29th, and 30 with us. And I'll reach out to you on that this week.
Sounds good. Thank you for all you do, Todd, and bringing all these people out to everybody. It's very important. It's awesome. But I know ultimately you're doing it for yourself, of course. And, but we're benefiting too. The collective is.
Right on. Serve yourself and serve everyone else equally, right? That's what we're trying to figure out. Thank you for that. Take care, Scott. Give your beautiful, beloved partner a hug. And we'll see y'all maybe tonight or tomorrow. Well, definitely tomorrow, but I might come back on tonight.